I was just told by Pitch Studios that apparently you can put your notes on Keynote, so I'm holding them in a quite old school way, which is strange, so I'm going to talk about AI. So you have to bear with me if there's a bit of rustling for my notes on the desk. Thank you for that nice introduction. I don't really need to, I guess, introduce myself, but that's me. And tonight I'm going to talk about a project called The Living Archive, an AI performance experiment which took place in LA this summer. The project was a collaboration between Wayne McGregor, Google Arts and Culture, and myself. I collaborated with them on the video installation, which was to be part of the LA project. Here's a quick trailer of the work. But before I talk about that project, I'll give you a quick overview about myself and some of my creative practice. My work is really rooted in the practice of sculpture. However, I believe that sculpture is the interrogation of our physical world, rather than the need for a physical sculpture, physical object. So it can kind of manifest in a whole host of ways. Through my work, I aim to create an engagement with the phenomenological elements of the world around us, like light, space, form, and materials. I like to draw on a range of fabrication processes, from physical to the digital, to help us understand this changing world we live in this increasingly digitized environment. Along with my physical work, I use photography and film to help interrogate and understand the world that I move around in and I travel in. This is a project I did a few years ago, which was on an expedition to Antarctica with the explorer Robert Swan, which hopefully is going to have another manifestation this year. Then on a much larger scale, I build physical worlds themselves. And through my large-scale installations, I aim to create affecting experiences for the viewer that can alter and change their psychological state. This is actually an image of my first collaboration with Wayne McGregor. It was a kinetic light sculpture for his piece Autobiography that premiered in 2017 at Sadler's Wells, and I'm very pleased to say that it's still going strong and flying around the world. I think it goes to Asia for a couple of dates, and I think it goes to Australia early next year. So back to the project at hand. What is the Living Archive, the AI experiment? It started off, well, it is an experiment between Studio Wayne McGregor and Google Arts and Culture. It's a tool for choreography that's powered by machine learning, which generates original movement inspired by Wayne's 25-year archive. As part of the tool, it captures the dancer's movement, it analyzes it, then it extends it in real time with original material. Wayne's work that was to be shown in LA was created by him and his dancers in collaboration with the tool. And the video installation I was to create was also to use a tool, but interrogate and use a tool in different and unknown expected ways. In order to do this, I had to collaborate very closely with the Google Arts and Culture lab in Paris, and this was a real privilege because when I went over there, I was confronted by some of the most amazing genius coders, in the world, and then we sat down and we started talking together about what we were going to do together. At the start of the project, the tool was outputting movement as stick figures and some images that resembled lifelike forms. And along with these, there were the start of some abstract representations. And it was these abstract representations that I felt we really needed to push further. And my first question to the Google team was simple. If a computer was to dance, how would it dance? And this question formed the basis of our entire exploration. My next question was, do you think you could make me a 15-minute piece of AI-generated choreography? To anyone else, they'd be like, what are you talking about? Of course, luckily for me, the answer is yes. because my plan, while working with the lab, was to hijack that code and visually output that code in a whole myriad of different ways. You see, as humans, and I'm sure you're well aware of this, we have a body and a physical structure that allows us to move and express ourselves, in only a certain set of ways. We'll always be confined to our human form. So why on this project, when we didn't need to, why would we confine ourselves to something that resembled the human form? We could show movement in a whole spectrum of ways. Initially, we started looking at the aesthetic of the AI movement code itself. This is the code straight from the Python script. When we started making the code-like environments, we started making these environments that the code could react to. Each part of the body had a different representational node. You can see here LH for left hand, and LF for left foot, and the X's is for the center of the head. And also you can see here, because the technology and the AI movement was perfect, the movement of the nodes moves around the screen and around the space in sometimes a slightly unpredictable way. Here's a short clip of these nodes moving around the environment. We then went on to investigate the visualizations of the code in a whole series of different ways, from dots moving around a screen to animated lines, and as you can see here, a static type energy that reacted to the intensity of the code depending on a particular time in the movement. We then started exploring visualizations that had more of a lifelike quality, from cell-like structures to forms that had a kind of angelic feeling, and this, the nodes of a body interacting with a dot matrix. You can see here that it's already starting to have a physical, organic quality to itself. In this clip, you can see the generated movement interacting with the dot matrix. It's almost an entity being born, code made physical. Our next step was to kind of go back to the original stick images and see what we could do with these and extrapolate new meaning from such a simple form. And we want to rework these in a variety of ways. This image here looks to me like a scrolling topography or a moving landscape, just using a simple stick figure. You can see on the right that the movement of the dancer is being undone by the one on the left. Finally, we started exploring images that were closer to the human form, and here you can almost see the body overlaid the skeletal structure below that was forming the movement of the dancer. Here's a clip of some of the AI-generated dance, and what was wonderful about it was some was beautiful, and some was actually quite ugly and strange. And it was the ugly and strange parts that fascinated me. You know, as humans, we're socially conditioned to understand beauty in a certain way, but AI doesn't have this bias. And I felt it was integral not to edit out any of the ugliness, so as not to privilege our own human lens. So all of this was moved in, all of this was left in, all the strangeness, all the ugliness, all the jerkiness was intentionally left as part of the project, so it was authentic and real. For the performance and installation in LA, the video is shown on a large semi-transparent LED screen. I felt it was important to have a strong presence of technology on the stage, almost as if part of a computer had been ripped out and placed there. It needed to be simultaneously raw and visceral, whilst having a fragility to it, much like our own bodies, that we have. The screen also had a strong presence and lifelike energy of its own. Sometimes it completely transformed the stage, becoming at one with the dancers. And on other times, the code and the dancers were seen in unison, the screen acting as a digital insight into part of the process of the choreography, like an X-ray between the two. And here, in one of the visuals, the code can almost be seen raining down on the dancers. In other parts of the show, we highlighted the seemingly fragile screen, exposing the skeletal structure of the screen itself, stripping away the light, almost like stripping away the skin, bringing the technology to the front, bringing the technology to the fore. And here, finally, towards the end of the show, one of the dancers standing back and reflecting, looking at the AI dancer on the screen as the work drew to a close. You know, I can't tell you how much I learned through the process of creating this work. It was the biggest learning curve of anything I've ever done. And as a result, it's changed my way that I look at the world. And I believe that it's only through interrogating new technology that we can truly find the right place with it in society. And this couldn't be any more relevant when it comes to AI and the development of AI in our day-to-day lives. So I'm going to leave you with one, since I'm the last speaker, I'm going to leave you with one question to think about, maybe on your way home. Will we allow the new aesthetics that AI presents to us to challenge the way we look at the world? Or will we simply reject them as being ugly and strange? Thank you.